BDO. We are back. We are here to talk Arena of Solare. We had the trial version this weekend where we got to test Arena of Solare out on Global Labs. This time it was a little bit bigger of a test, a lot more people invited. Let's get started. Positives. Fun. It was incredibly fun. It was super fun. I had a blast playing it. I was sad that it ended. I was sad it was limited. Being able to just matchmake, queue up, get into PvP, 3v3, go to first to 3, have a little bit of competitive PvP, and then get right out is really, really awesome and cool. I cannot wait for this to come to live. Next, the new map. It's incredibly fun and different. It's very big. There's a lot of space. There's a little bit of strategy involved. You can move around. You have space to run away, space to chase people down, because there's some objectives on the map that we'll get into next. There's reasons to move around and not just all be fighting in one place. But yeah, having two different maps is very fun and cool. But the new map is a lot of fun and awesome. I enjoyed it. Gimmicks. Now, this is going to go in the positives and the negatives, but I'm going to start with the positives here first. The gimmicks. Okay, so they're kind of fun. Having a little bit of strategy where when you're fighting someone and you end up in a 1v2 or down, you get to go run away and try to get an AP buff or DP buff to try to help your odds in a 1v2 situation or a 1v3 situation. Or if you have two people that are doing a pretty good job of holding off your three opponents, being able to move around on the map and grab one of these objectives to kind of benefit yourself is really cool. It also does create fights in different areas of the map and makes it so people don't stay in one place. Also, the middle center sphere, the way that works is pretty fun because I enjoyed the idea of trying to avoid something in the middle of my fight. Just as long as you have a little bit of time to react to it. I'll talk a little bit about it more in the negatives, but that part was also pretty fun. More fun than I thought it was going to be, but it was pretty fun. The gear choices. Oh my God. Equalized gear is really cool. Having the option to set up your gear setup before you go in is really cool for a number of reasons. One, everyone is on the same playing field. Everyone gets to participate with the exact same amount of gear and gear options. It's also really cool that I could queue into ladder with multiple characters. As long as you are level 60 and you have completed the Succession and Awakening quest lines, you can participate in Arena of Solare on your character, and that is really, really cool because that means you get to play on multiple characters regardless of your gear. Very, very awesome. Match history. Match history is really cool. After you finish your match, once you get out, you can go look at your match history. I'm not exactly sure how many games. I think it's supposed to show at least 10 games back, maybe more. But one of the great things about the matchmaking is it has a little bit of information there for you. It tells you how much damage you did, how much damage you received, how many kills you had, how many deaths you had, and you can also see that for all of your allies and your enemies as well. So you could kind of see and gauge who is more impactful or less impactful and that sort of thing. It's really, really cool to look at that, and it's super unique in BDO because we're not used to seeing any information at all when it comes to that kind of stuff. So that's really, really cool to see, and I enjoyed that a lot. Kill notifications for both allies and enemies. I'm going to get into a little bit more detail in my next point, but kill notifications are very important. I think a huge part of the game. This one is it's a positive with some caveats. It's really awesome that you have the kill notification, but you get the same exact kill notification every time one of your opponents dies, whether you killed them or your teammate killed them. I do wish there was a little bit of something to differentiate those. You also get a kill notification when your ally dies, which visually is different. You see it in more of a teal color, which is pretty cool, but it's also the same sound effect. And I think it would be great if that sound effect was different. Someone in my chat during the test stream kind of described it perfectly, but basically that kill notification is your dopamine hit. And you can't trick our minds and give us that dopamine hit when our allies die. You have to make that sound different. It has to be a little bit different. But either way, having a kill notification for both allies and enemies, very, very cool. They listened for the most part. They kind of listened to most of the feedback that we had the first go around a couple of months ago when we had the first test. Kill notifications was one. Having difficulty seeing allies was another. Now your allies are blue, enemies are red. The wait times are improved. The queue is a little bit more streamlined. You also now have a ready check before you go in, which is awesome. Your V resets every single round, which again is very, very cool. There's going to be 3 maps, I believe they said. Right now there's 2. I think that's good, so it doesn't become mundane queuing into the same map over and over and over again. A lot of the feedback that people had during the first couple of tests actually was listened to and addressed for the most part, which is very cool to see. The biggest one being equalized gear, being able to go in and not worry if you're against someone from a very strong guild or not, because you have the same access to the gear that they have access to. And now the negatives. The wait times are a little bit too long at both the start and the end of a match. They added a ready check, which is awesome. However, once you get into the match, there's a pretty long delay as it waits for everyone to load in. And also, maybe there's a little bit of lag or delay because of global labs. Regardless, it felt like I was waiting a very, very long time at the start of every single match before it began. And then again, at the end of the match, there's kind of a long wait time before it pulls you out. Now, it doesn't move you to the spawn to make you think that you're starting another fight. So that's a huge plus. But you are kind of stuck there for a little while after, and hopefully they improve that. The matches are best of 5s now, so you're in the match for longer, which I think is a good thing, and it helps the wait times not feel as bad, but improving those wait times would be pretty awesome. The gimmicks. All right, the gimmicks. Again, I have this in both the positives and the negatives, but the reason why I have this in the negatives is because they are too impactful. I think the problem with some of the gimmicks, especially at the lower gear score, for example, we'll just talk about the DP one. The DP one seems to have given you 60 DP. Now, I didn't see it for myself, but I was told during the stream that other people looked in their stat screen, and when they got the DP buff, they went and looked and saw that they gained 60 DR. 60 DR when you have 350 DP and only 245 or 247 AP is a lot of DR. So people become incredibly tanky, and the gimmicks spawn right away. So they're so important that you're kind of forced to get them or deal with them. And when someone has them, it's incredibly noticeable. I think having a little bit of a boost would be cool. I also think it should take a little while before they spawn. I don't think they should spawn in the first 15 or 20 seconds. I think it'd be kind of cool if after the first minute, the gimmicks start to spawn up and change the map and make it a little bit more exciting as the time goes on. The gear choices. All right, so the gear choices, again, this is in positive and negative, but the reason why I have this in the negative is because the choices are, while good that we have them, not necessarily good in the way they are set up. So for example, you have Orkinrad belt and Bassi belt, and both of them are duo. And the Bassi belt has a certain amount of AP, and the Orkinrad belt has the exact same amount of AP, and it has HP, and it has extra DP that adds evasion. So why is the Bassi belt there to begin with if it's not actually a choice? Then you have a lot of DP setup, for example, Centaur belt or Sissel neck, or I believe you have Kadri rings, if I remember correctly. The problem with this is some classes do a lot more damage at lower gear than other classes, and those classes benefit so much from gaining tankiness that it's a huge disadvantage for other classes. I'll just use the age-old example of a witch or a wizard against a striker or a mystic. Even if you try to build full accuracy and full offense, your damage is going to be pretty miserable against a gauntlet class because of their defenses, their HP pool, and now their access to this extra evasion and DP. It makes it very difficult to be able to kill them, especially if you end up in a 1v1. So the gear differences, while it's cool that you can choose, I think it needs to be balanced a little bit better so you don't feel like you're helpless when you end up in certain matchups, especially when it comes to the gear itself. There should be no instance where two people that are playing the exact same class are on the exact same team. Now, I understand queue times could be longer. I understand the wait time could be longer, and you want to prevent that as much as possible. But Pearl Abyss, at the very least, I'll meet them in the middle. I'll extend an olive branch here. At the very least, if you have two of the same class in a pool of 6 people, they should never, ever be on the same team. The only exception where I'd be like, okay, I get that, and it sped up the queue time and improved the queue time, is if a pool of 6 people has 3 of the same class. I understand having 2 on one team and 1 on the other. I had 2 separate instances yesterday where I had 2 Kunos on my team and the enemy team had 2 Sorks. Zero reason that should ever happen. Split them up. Having 2 of the same class on a single team is incredibly toxic and unfair in a lot of cases. So definitely separate those. You should never have 2 of the same class on the same team if possible. Resists. Okay, I hate resists, man. Most people hate resists. Resists are one of these things that I still am just blown away that they're forced on us in PvP. I have asked so many people over the years about resists and how they feel about resists, and it is so incredibly rare that people prefer resists, and as time goes on, they become increasingly more and more frustrated with resists and the randomness that resists cause. Hedon talked about this in one of his videos recently when comparing Lost Ark and Black Desert Online, and one of the things that he said is you need to remove resists, and if there are classes in the game that rely on resist, then you need to make changes to those classes so they don't rely on resist. Fix those classes. Don't keep crutching on resists because it makes the gameplay experience miserable, especially in a ranked arena where you're going to be gaining and losing MMR as you win or lose. And sometimes it's going to happen because someone resisted something and it does not feel good. It's awful. And just to compound the issue, one of the first things I noticed when I went into the boot section, when you choose your crystals, I was just shocked that you have a long list of all the different adamantines, and I was just super disappointed. So resist. They got to go. 2 maps being so vastly different and having different rules. Now, I like it because it's fun. This is one of the things that's kind of positive and negative, but the issue I have with it, and some people may disagree, is that it creates an odd randomness. Now, I'm going to compare it to StarCraft. It's a very different game, but StarCraft has many maps when you ladder and you have a veto system and all this stuff. But regardless of that, you queue in, you get a map, and every map has different advantages and disadvantages, but the rules on every map are always the same. Those don't change. And the problem with these 2 maps, while they're different and terrain advantages and differences mean a lot to certain classes, Archer or Striker, or classes that can double jump like Ninja and Kuno and stuff like that matters, but the gimmicks being in one of the maps and there being 0 gimmicks in another map makes the randomness a little bit weird. So when I'm looking at someone's MMR, like, oh, how good is this person? They got to Master, and this person is stuck in Diamond, but maybe this person's win rate on the non-gimmick map is like 75%, and then their win rate on this weird gimmick map where you have to go grab a DP buff and do all this other stuff is only 30%. It kind of doesn't sit right with me. I think I could live with it a little bit more, again, if, like I said before, the buffs weren't as impactful, but they are very, very impactful right now. So the different rules makes it feel kind of weird when queuing up for a ranking system. Class balance. All right, class balance is just, it's like exasperated to the max at this gear level. One of the things that happens when you have a lot of gear is you can overcome some of the odd class imbalances. For example, I'll just use Awaken Hashashin because I grind and play on that class a lot. When I'm running a DR build on Hash, I can overcome some of the weird class imbalances when it comes to gauntlets and the lack of damage that I have because of a massive amount of AP and accuracy that I have in my build. However, in here, that's not really a thing, and I don't see any real or legitimate way to overcome that in a lot of instances. I used an example earlier when talking about the gear, but again, casters versus gauntlets, the class imbalance becomes even more exaggerated in these arenas where you have a lot lower AP and a lot more DP, and also DP sets that make it just feel incredibly bad. One of the things that happened to me during the match is during testing, me and another Kuno, we were both on Awakening Kuno, caught a Succession Nova and full comboed it. We even got a re-CC that was timed out fairly well, and we both did our full combo. We got the Nova down to 50%. I'm okay with that. I don't mind it being a little bit bullet spongy, to use a reference from games like Division and Destiny. But I don't mind the tankiness, but the problem is then I get grabbed or caught by a Sork or a warrior, and I just die instantly. And he didn't even need a teammate to help him out. So those differences in damage are extremely noticeable at this gear level, and I think is going to turn a lot of people off if things aren't adjusted a bit. I don't know if that means increasing the gear, the AP, or lowering the DP, or limiting some of the set choices that you have, but it's very, very noticeable basically immediately when you run into a class that you're like, wow, I actually do 0 damage, and then they catch me and I die instantly. And lastly, I have can't queue from Battle Arena. Now, this one's small, but it's important, and it was, I wish I could remember the guy's name, but it was brought to my attention during the test from someone in chat, which I thank you very much, and I apologize for not remembering your name. But I think being able to queue from Battle Arena is pretty important because a lot of people are going to want to just be sparring or practicing or working on combos in Battle Arena while they're in the queue, just kind of warming up. And I think it'd be kind of cool to be able to be in Battle Arena, start the queue, duel people, and then just hop into your server. And a lot of times things like this, the community kind of decides on, for example, a Battle Arena, maybe Battle Arena 1 or 2. Some of these Battle Arenas are pretty popular, and going in there to spar while you're in queue and having people in there to help you kill time while you're waiting for a match to pop would be really, really awesome. All right, that's the list. Positives and negatives. I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm missing. I was only able to test it for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But it was, again, a ton of fun. There's a lot of really cool and positive changes that they made. I cannot wait for it to come to live server. There are also negative things that need to be fixed and addressed, and hopefully they are. And I do think some of the stuff will probably feel a little bit better on live server because I know a lot of people were playing with 250 or 220 ping. Even if you're playing on the East Coast and have really bad ping, it's not going to be 220, 250. So that felt pretty bad. But again, I'm really excited for it. I can't wait for it to come out. I had a good time playing it. Can't wait to see what the future changes are. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'll see you next time. Later.